how this is going to be. So the class we're having today, we are kicking off. Good evening all. Good evening. Welcome. I hope you guys can hear me. All right. So good evening, guys. I am Oraniku Gabriel. Some of you know me personally, some of you don't. So I'm Oraniku Gabriel, and for this meeting I will introduce myself as a Flutter developer. So what we're going to be looking at is custom paint, how to paint in Flutter. We've had a version 1 of this particular custom paint. So this second class is basically to touch, we are going to touch part of what we did in the last class, and then we'll contrast and compare custom paints and custom clips. So that is basically, or rather we'll say clip parts, but they are all the same thing. So that is basically what we'll be looking at today. So we're looking at cases where you use a paint to maybe paint, let's say you want to paint something, cases where you need to use a paint, and cases where you need to use a clip. So that is what we'll be focusing on today. Without much ado, I'm going to start the project here. So as you can see, this is my main.dat, and there is nothing currently. So while I explain, I will give us anything I do, I will explain how it came about to the best of my knowledge. So for our Flutter application, we'll have our main file, our main function, then we have the run app, right? We'll have the run out, and then the application we want to write, let's say paint app. Okay, so somewhere here we are going to create a stateless widget that will be a paint app, right? We'll have our material app. We'll have our material app whose home will be my app, right? So in my app we'll have another stateless widget, and this is going to be my app. So I'm going to run this project, and then while it is running, I will just go through a few things that we discussed in the last class. So custom paints, why do we even need custom paints in Flutter? So the reason, and then for your knowledge sake, if you have a question, just raise your hand, use the emoji, this hand, you raise your hand, and then I will pause whatever I'm doing, and then you ask your question. So don't wait until the end of the class, because you might as well forget. So just raise your hand and ask any question, and I will answer, and then we'll proceed. So why do we even use custom paints in Flutter? There are some particular things that you may want to do in your application that you cannot just do without paint. A typical example some of you may know is this project I shared on the group chat. Some of you may have seen this. So imagine you wanted to create something like this on your own without using like a third-party package or something. You just want to do it fresh. Or imagine the designer did not have exactly that, and there is no package out there to give you what you want. So that is where you consider either you clip or you paint. So what we are going to be looking at today is when do you clip and when do you paint. Okay, so for some shapes you can paint in Flutter. You can paint a square in Flutter. So if you have a square like this, you can easily paint a square in Flutter. You can paint a circle shape if you want. If you can paint a circle shape if you wanted. Let me just quickly bring out a circle shape. Okay, you can paint a circle shape if you wanted. You can paint, say, a triangle. You can paint virtually anything you wanted given that you know exactly how you do your stuff. All right, so that's how it works. So my application has started, and then I will go on to explain the basics of custom paint before we will now move on to compare and contrast. All right, so in our Flutter, when we paint, Flutter gives us a canvas. So we may as well imagine this as our mobile phone. So if this is the screen of your mobile phone, and this particular area is defined by is the boundary of your paint, so we call it a canvas. Okay, so what it means is that this whole area is your canvas, and then you can paint anything you want. So let's take, for instance, you wanted to paint a pentagon, a shape with 5 sides. So you draw a line like this, draw down to this place, you go up, and then you go back to this position. So you can maybe color this place some, maybe say pink or red, just to say that you've drawn a pentagon. And that's how paints work. So if you can understand your boundaries, you can paint anything you want. Now let's create something practical. So let's put our scaffold, and then in the app bar we'll have an app bar, and then for the title we'll have an app bar. For the title we'll have a text that says paint. Okay, then we'll have our body. So our body now, if I explained, so I previously explained that this is the boundary of our paint. So what it means is that if I want this whole area to be where I will paint, I mean the whole of my phone to be where I will draw the pentagon, it means that everything here is what? My canvas. So if I wanted to draw a pentagon that will go like this, like this, like this, like this, and like this, it means that I will go something like this, come down, go like this, and go up, and then I have exactly what I want, and I will demonstrate practically. So let's have something like a custom paint. So this is how you paint. Custom paint itself is a widget. So it is a widget, but custom painter is a class, is an abstract class that you inherit from. So let's go a class, let's say pentagon shape, or rather pentagon paint, and then we are going to extend custom painter. So if you're using VS Code and you hover on this red squiggly line, you can create the missing part. In your should implement, you have true. Sorry if you're not following, I will still, you can, if you're not following and you don't have access to my first video, you can message me privately and I will send it to you. So that covers the basics of all those things. So I'm just trying to do like a rundown so that we will start what we have for today. That is the comparison I talked about. Okay, so we have a paint. So from this now, you can see that this abstract class gives us our canvas, and that is the canvas that I'm talking about. So this whole canvas is where we can do anything that we want. So if we want to paint a manual on this place now, we can as well do it, given the right knowledge and the right resource. So we can do it if we wanted. So going ahead, we can see that this body, the body has already given us a boundary for our paint. So what we just need to do here is to put the pentagon painter, or rather the pentagon paint that we have. So you can see that this is a pentagon paint. So anything we paint inside this class will now be drawn on the screen. So from what I said, we want to paint this pentagon shape. if you look at this, let's imagine that this is the screen of our phone, right? So at this point we are like, say, 20% from the height of the phone, right? We are just imagining. So if this is the height of the phone, this point is like 20% of the height of this phone. Are you guys following? Hello? All right. So this, we are saying that this place is like 20% of the height of my screen height. So it means that I want to move my cursor from where it is originally is, because from the last video, every paint starts from 0,0. That is from this point here. That is where our brush, imagine that this is the paint itself, this is my pencil, so the point starts here. So if I wanted to paint something from this area, so I will need to move my paint, or rather move my brush, from where it originally is down to 20% of the height of my screen, and then on the x-axis it is 0, right? Because this is 0, this place is 0,0. If you follow your mathematics, this is 0,0. Then this place is width w, 0. This place at this point is width, height, and then this point is 0, height, right? Because this is the height of the screen, this is the width of the screen, the height of the screen and the width of the screen. So if we want to paint this, we need to bring our brush down to 20% of the screen height. So let's implement that in our code. So what we just need to do is we are going to initialize our path. So we'll save path is equal to path, right? We'll have this. Then down here we can say canvas.draw path, and then we'll pass our path. That is the path we created, and our paint, which we will create in a bit. So let's create our paint object. We have our paint. So these are the two basic things we need, the path and the paint. So the path is the path we are going to follow to draw this pentagon, while the paint is what is going to do the drawing itself. Like, say we want to color it, we want to make it thick, we want to make it light, stuffs like that. That's what our paint will do for us. But the path will provide the part that the paint is going to paint itself. I hope it makes sense. Are we together? All right, thank you. So let's proceed. So from this point, remember we said we want to move our cursor down to somewhere here. So what we want to draw is something like this. From this point, we'll draw down here, go down, come to this side, go up, and then return back to this center. So our cursor our paint is already here. So we want to move this paint from this point to somewhere here. So what do? We will say path dot move, and want to move to 0, size dot height times 0.2. So this thing simply means 0,20% of the screen height. That's what this thing means, this particular line of code. So what I just implemented is I moved my cursor from where it originally is to somewhere that is 20% here. So that is this place where I am. Now I want to draw from this place down to the screen height, down to this point. So to implement it in my code, I will just do path.line2. Path.line2. I'm going to move to 0, size dot height. Okay, and that is the translation. So from this point, from this place, I'm going down to this place, and then from this place I want to move across to this place. The same thing, so we'll still go path.line2. I'm going to move to this point, which is size.width comma size.height. So in the code I will have size.width and size.height. Now if you can see that nothing is taking shape in the screen, and you're wondering what we are doing is even correct. So there is a way we can do .fill. We can change the property of this page like I told you. .style, we will set it to paint style dot paint style dot fill, right? Okay, so we can also adjust our color. Let's say we want to color it red. Let's say colors.red. Okay, we have this. Now moving on, we've drawn from here, we moved our cursor from here to here, then we drew a line from this point down to this place, and then we'll do a line from here across to this place. So we want to draw a line that will go from here to this point again, so that it will meet up with this particular place. Okay, that's what we want to do now. And then we know that this place already we know that this height is 20% of the screen height, and then the width is size.width. So we'll give the same translation in our code. We'll say path.line2 size.width and then size.height times 0.2. okay, so we are implementing the code. Let's make sure that our code is showing, please, because media query dot size of dot width, and then media query dot size of dot height. All right, so we are certain that we are seeing what all those things we have been coding. So from what I explained, you can see that we drew something like this. We started from this point, we drew down to this place, we went from here, we drew up, from here we went up again. So currently our cursor, or rather our path, is somewhere here. So let's say we want to bring this thing down so that it will look more like a pentagon. So we can decide to move this place maybe down to here, so we can adjust this thing to like 0.4. and you see, immediately I change this place to 0.4, you can see that it's affected, right? So it means that the next thing we want to do is to draw from this place up to the center of our screen width. If I can move my cursor or path from this point to the center, then I can, what it means is that from this point I'm going to the center here, right? And I'll be at this point, and we know what this point is. This point is our size.width over 2. That is 50% of the screen width over what? 2, 0. I hope you are following. Are we following? All right, thank you. All right, thank you. I'm not even I'm on Bluetooth. Wait, let me disconnect this, because it's possible my voice has not been recording. All right, so like I was saying, we are now at this point, so we want to move our path from this point to the center of the screen. So how do we do it in our code? We'll go path.line2. So we are going to go size.width times 0.5. that is 50% of the screen, 0. So you see, we've moved our cursor from this point to this place, and already the reason why this thing completed itself is because our style is fill. If this style was not fill, look at what we will have. Okay, no, not here. I mean, okay, well, it's still the same thing, sha. So you can see that from here we've gotten to this point. So normally the part will find its way back to where it started. Remember that we started from here, so it will find its way back to where it started. All right. So but it's always good to close your part when you're done. Yes, it does it on its own, but when you're done with all your parts, it's always good to close it off. There is no performance enhancement or anything, but it's just to tell yourself that you know what you're actually doing. So you can see that with these few lines of code, I've been able to draw a pentagon, I believe 1 2 3 4 5. And if I wanted, for instance, I didn't want it this way. Let's say I wanted it to, for let's say something like let's say we want 50% and 50%, and then we'll center this thing. You can see that. Imagine you have, I know it's rare to have a design like this, but just imagine that you have a design that says you should implement this in your code, maybe with some other things, and you are wondering how you're going to be able to draw a pentagon. So with this now, you can see that you can easily implement such things by following these simple procedures. Okay, you already know how to move your parts and your lines, and then you have something like this, right? So this gives you what you need. But then remember that the purpose of this class is just to identify when we use a paint and when we use a clip, because if I follow the same approach with a clip, I can achieve exactly the same thing. So before I proceed with that, I would like to ask if there is any question from the paint that we just did. Do we have any question? Do we have any question? Okay, so I believe that is a no. Okay, go
I
on,
do, please.
go on.
I do have a question.
Yeah, ask your question,
Please, in 3 to 5 minutes, can you, or as fast as you can you just summarize from the beginning of the code? I couldn't join from the beginning.
I'll do that quickly. You know, we are bound by time. Google Meet is not forever, so I'll just do it very quickly. So what I from all of the things I've said, I said one of the things I said was that we custom paint is just simply knowing how you can control whatever is on your canvas. So knowing how you can control whatever is on your canvas. So imagine you are an artist, right? And you have this place to draw something. Maybe you want to draw a man, maybe that has a head with a hand like this. So you are an artist and you want to draw these things. So if you can correctly calculate the position of the head, the position of the torso, or the position of the hands, the legs and everything, you will see that your painting or whatever you're drawing will fit within your canvas, right? So but if you don't have an idea, let's say a small child that is still growing, that maybe cannot make such mental calculations, if you ask them to draw a human being inside a canvas, let's assume this is the small child going to draw, he or she may start drawing the head from this place, and then eventually taking up only half quarter of the screen, and that is because they are not correctly calculating where and what they need to position. But you, as a grown person that can do such mental calculations, you can easily manipulate whatever is on your canvas and draw whatever you want. So bringing the same idea to what we have on our app, I told us that custom paint itself provides us with a canvas to draw what we want. So here the custom paint has given up Flutter has given us this API, that is the canvas, to draw what we want on its surface. So provided we provide a size, how big should our custom paint get? So you can see where I said that the size of this custom paint is 50% of the screen width and 50% of the screen height. So I've defined the size for this custom paint, and that is the same thing as giving you a canvas to draw. Now to the actual drawing, I told us that the custom paint is the widget, but the custom painter is the abstract class that we have to extend. So we created a class that we called Pentagon Paint that extended from the custom painter. Now I told us that what we wanted to draw is just a simple pentagon. So a pentagon, we assume that a pentagon is something like this. So it started from this place down here to this point, and then went back up, right? So that is the same thing we said we are going to draw. Now if you look at this shape, normally our custom paint brush, this our brush now, this is my brush I'm moving around. So our brush starts from this place, but from what we are seeing, we can see that our drawing did not start from the beginning of this canvas. Rather, it started from here, and we assumed it to be 40% of the screen height, or rather of the canvas height. So if we can move our cursor or brush from this point to this place, then we have done the first thing, the first calculation. That is what it means. We've done the very first calculation. So when we move to this point, we want to replicate the same thing. We want to replicate the same thing in our code, and that is what I'm saying. So if you know your maths, if you know your maths well, you will easily agree with me that if this point is 0,0, I mean this point now is 0,0, what it means is that this particular point is 0, height, because this is the height. And if this point is 0, height, then this particular point is going to be width, height. That's what it means. And then this point is going to be width, 0, right? So we've identified all the points of our canvas. We know our starting point, we know our ending point, and we've already said that we need to move this cursor down to 50% of the screen height. Then the x-axis will be 0, and that is what we did here. So the very first thing we did was to move our part to 40% of the screen height, and that is why our cursor, our brush, came here to this point. Then from this point, we said we want to draw down to 0, height, and that is what we did. The next thing we did to draw a line, you see, path.line to 0, size.height, which is from this point down to this point. Okay, then at this point we need to move from here to here. Okay, and that is the next thing we did. We are moving to size.width, size.height, because remember this point is our width, height. Then from this point again, we need to move up to this place, this same position. So that is what we also did here. Size.width, size.height, that's this times 0.4 simply means 40% of the screen height. or rather 40% of our canvas height, not screen height, of our canvas height. So from this point we need to go to the center of the canvas. Perfect. And that's when we said part dot line to size dot width times 0.5. 0.5 simply means half, then comma 0, and that's why we have exactly the shape we desired. So if we wanted another shape, if we wanted any other shape, let's say we wanted, this is our canvas, and then we wanted to draw a star, let's say something that looks like this. I may not be the best to draw a star, but let's say we wanted to draw something like this with the correct, though this is not beautiful, though this is not a beautiful something, but when you appreciate custom paints is when you see beautiful things you can create on your own. And Adeyemi, you missed when I was showing us beautiful things you could draw, like for instance this kind of a thing. When you have a basic understanding of how a paint works, you can draw anything you wanted. So this was like a custom painted widget. This too was custom painted, so you can basically draw. I think I have another. Okay, no, that should be it. So you can basically paint anything that you wanted with the right knowledge. Okay, so that is like the summary of what we did. Are we together?
Yes, thank you very much.
All right. So moving on, the class is not going to take much time. I will give you time to also assimilate what we did, and I'm recording this video, though for the first few minutes I don't know if it actually recorded my voice. But we'll give it a shot. So the main thing we wanted to discuss in this class is when to use paints and when to use clips, because I can also achieve this same thing in a more simpler way, and I will show us. So imagine we have this kind of a thing. Imagine we have this. We all know a container. There's nobody that hasn't used a container as a Flutter developer. Right? So let's give it a height and a width. So we'll have this. We'll have a height, height, or rather this is our width. We have our width, and then we have our height, height, right? So let's this should be a container. Let's color it. Let's say colors the green, right? So we have some. Let me space it out. Size box. We have a height of, let's say, 10. Okay, so now we have this kind of thing. So what I'm trying to say is, with the normal container you have, with a normal container, you can clip the parts of, you can clip that container to get exactly this pentagon we just drew. What I mean is this: we have a container like this, right? We have a container like this. So if there is a way we can just clip off this part and clip off something like this, these two ends like this. Let me draw it better. So if there's a way we can do this, maybe with my eraser, I hope I have an eraser somewhere, right? If I can just clip off something like this, you see we'll end up with the pentagon that we wanted. Okay, so that's just the simple thing I want to demonstrate. Okay, so and then we are going to do it just now. So we already we've drawn. This is not a drawing, this is just a normal container that you know. See, this is the code. We have a container that is green in color, and the height and the width is this. So we just want to clip this container. So what we do is this: we'll wrap this place in a clip part. Okay, and then if you hover on this clip part, you will see that there is something, that a parameter called clipper. So this clipper simply means where you will draw the thing you want to clip. Let me put it that way. Let me continue. If I after doing it, then you guys will understand what I mean. So just like this custom painter, we'll also have a class, and then we'll call it Pentagon clip. Okay, and then we are going to extend from clip at this time around. We are going to from clip parts. No, we are going to extend from clipper. Custom clipper rather. So we are going to extend from custom clipper. Now if I hover on this the same way, I will create this missing overrides, and then I will set this to true. Okay, now this is just very simple. The only thing is that we need to pardon, I need to put that this is a part, so it will generate it very well for me. I will indicate that what I'm clipping is a part, so that the return type will come out. So I will set this to true, and then for the get clip, so what we just need to do is to define a part. So we'll say var part equal to part. Okay, and then we'll return part. So if I do this now, I can now copy this pentagon clip and then attach it to my clipper here. Pentagon clip, this clipper. Good. Now the reason why we don't see the container anymore is because the part is like a dot, is like 0. So we've not clipped anything yet. So that is why our container is nowhere to be seen, because our part is still is just like something that we've not defined. So when we start drawing the part, you will see that we have exactly it. And how do we do it? I'll just need to copy this and paste, and I will explain. Let me explain. So following the same following the same following the same explanation for our paint. Remember I said that this is a part. So the first thing I did was to move my part to the same distance that I wanted. Remember I wanted a distance of 0.4, and that is this line 63. Okay, now I want from this point I will just go down, go like this, and go like this. And this particular implementation, this particular code now will do the clipping for me. Our time is almost up. Okay, Tolu, you have a question? Go ahead.
Thank you for the class. I want to ask, what's the name of the application you're using to draw your canvas?
This place. Is it this place?
Sketch.io.
Yeah, this is sketch.io. So okay, the link, you can see the link here. Sketch.io. That's what I'm using. It's a web application.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, if you can understand how to do your paints, right, you can also be able to clip your part, because this code that I have here is exactly the same code that I have here, and it's doing exactly the same thing. But let's say I did not want this thing, I did not want it to be pointed or stuffs like that. I can as well manipulate my parts, and it gives me what I want. So imagine I wanted to draw something like that looks like this. Let me get my pencil. I wanted to draw something that looks like this, like a right angle triangle. So it follows the same design. That's, remember, I already have my full container. I just want to be able to clip this part. So I will start from here, come down, go like this, and cut it off here, and then to give me this shape. So if I wanted to do something like that, let's redraw it. So I have part dot line to 0 comma size dot height. Now this one is very very simple because already this is the starting of our brush. So we just need to take it down to this place, and that's what we've done. So we did our line to 0 comma height. You can see from here I just went down. So from here now I want to go to the right. So the same explanation, part dot line to size dot width size dot height. And you can remember from all the explanation we've said on our canvas, this point is our width comma height, this point is our 0 comma height. So that's why we have width comma height. Now from this point you can see that our something is already drawn, and that is because of the explanation I gave. Our paint tries to draw itself in a straight line back to where it started from. So that's why you can see it's as if our drawing is already complete. But for sake of documentation, we'll close this paint, part dot close, and we have the right angle triangle we intended to have. So imagine I want to have another something. So you can basically draw anything. Imagine you wanted to have the counterpart of what we drew. Maybe you wanted a shape like this. The same idea follows. So you can decide, there are two things you can do. Because your brush is already here, you can decide to start from this place, go up, come down, and come here. Or you can decide to move your brush to this place, come down, do this, and do this. So it just depends on how you want it. Some other persons might decide to start from here, from this particular place. Now you move to here, go up, come down, and go. So anyhow you take the route, so far you can do your calculations, you know what to do. Okay, so that's all the practicals on this particular paint class. So what you just need to do is to go ahead and draw some things. You may decide to challenge yourself to draw something that is much more complex. You study the documentation and think of how to make arcs, because the beauty comes when you're doing sharp edged things. It's not so fine, but when you start doing curves, class done the end now. So but when you start doing curves, you can create much more beautiful things. So imagine you wanted to draw something like this, maybe something that has a curve like this. You see, it is much more better than drawing thick edged stuffs. So I'm going to go ahead to go to the theory of the difference between these two that we have, because we follow different we use different approaches to get the same thing. So you may be wondering excuse me, you may be wondering which of the two is better. Is there anyone that is hanging, or that will lag your application or not? The truth of the matter is that both of them have the same level of performance. If you clip and if you draw a paint, they both have the same level of performance. So it just depends on what you want to do. But then there is something you should note. There are some things that you cannot clip. Imagine you want to draw a circle, right? Custom paint already gives you an API to draw a circle, though you can as well first draw a container and then clip a circle inside a container. but then you see it is much more difficult to achieve this when you can maybe from this place do something like canvas dot draw circle, maybe an offset of offset size dot width, size dot height, a radius of let's say 10, of say 10. Let me make this over 2 so that it will be in the center, over 2, and then let me increase the radius to 50. Let me make the paint 2. Let me color it pink, or rather blue. So let's give this paint 2. So you see, if I wanted to draw a circle, canvas, the place I just did the manipulations is inside custom painter. You can see that custom painter already gives us an API to draw a circle. Okay, so instead of you going through the hassle of drawing a container, maybe you draw a square container and then you start clipping a circle around the container to get a circle, you can just easily use canvas.draw circle and then you draw whatever you want. Okay, so it just depends on you, but it's you that will choose your which one is easier for you. But I believe that somebody that wants to draw a circle will just go for draw circle instead of going through this long route. So but at the end of the day, it all depends on you. So if you explore the different canvas APIs, you will or methods, you will see there is a clip path, there is a clip rect, there is a clip draw arc. You have so many of them, so many that I've not even explored all. So you can on your own try and go through them if you're interested, because I love animations, I love paints, doing things custom. So I love those kind of things, you get. So you can go ahead and explore it yourself and appreciate what the Flutter team did. All right, go on, ask your question.
My question is, if you want to put, like, maybe I saw one of the paints you drew, one bottom bar plate that you now put slash button. Was it you stack those children inside them, or this paint accepts child?
This one.
Exactly. No, the slash, the menu button, and the notification button.
Let me another thing you have to know in paint is that you have to be very, very crafty with your art. Let me explain this, the way I achieve this thing. Let me just explain. You will see it has to do with how crafty you are with your art. So I have this nav bar, right? I have a nav bar like this. So what I did is I first gave a height. I have a container whose height is like, I think I gave it 200. So I have a height of 200, and this container is not colored. Who is making this now? And this container is not colored, so it's a colorless. Like, I did not put any color to it, so it will be colorless. It will be transparent rather. So I have this container. That is the container. Actually, this is the height of the first container. Everything from here now, from this place where my cursor is, that's the entire height of the container, right? So the second thing I did was to draw another, not draw, I just stacked another container inside this one. So I have another container at this level. Okay, so you see I have the first container, which is this. I have the second container, which is now this red one you're seeing. So this is red in color, this place is red in color, right? Now inside this second container I have a row. So this is the row that I now put this place. I use a spacer, and then I put the other two icons. Okay, so this one is pretty straightforward. So this is a row. So this is the first icon, then I have a spacer here, then I have the other two icons, right? So the second thing I did, or rather the next thing I did, was to not draw, I just put a circle avatar here. So I have a circular avatar here, somewhere here, and already I gave the radius of that my circular avatar to be the distance. Let me draw it very well. The radius of that my circular avatar is now the distance from this place down to this place, so that it will be as if it is in the center. I don't know if you get. So this radius now, if this is the second container, so from this place to this place is the radius of this my circular avatar. So it now made this circular avatar look like, let me just see if I'll get a better picture. I'm not getting it. I'm coming. So imagine this is it, right? So I have this circular avatar, and then it's as if it's seated in the center between this particular container that is colorless and this red one. So after doing this manipulation, this is what I had. I had something like this. I had something like this. I had something like this. Something like this. I have my icon here.
Stacked, right?
I have my icon here. I have my icon. Eh?
But it was stacked, right?
Yeah, everything is stacked. I will still show the code and explain
Okay.
before we end, if the code doesn't end. So I have, this is the definition of what I have. So that is this place now. Now the second thing I did was, at this point you already know the decision I will make, so I cannot start painting again. All I needed to do was to clip off this particular semicircle, and then give it some kind of curve. Those kind of curves, this kind of curve you are seeing here, all these small curves. So what I did was I now clipped off this particular section like this. So at the end of everything, I ended up having something like this that will go like this and like this, right? And then something like this. I will now have my circle. Seated something like, and that's how this thing came about. So you see, you just have to be crafty in what you do. I may be reasoning it this way, another person may see it that they should paint it. So it all depends on how you view the design that is in front of you. So you can see that with this simple explanation, you can now see how I was able to create that particular
Yes.
paint. Exactly. So if I show the
The
code.
show is about to end, sir.
Okay. All right. So I think we are done.